Hello, my name is Elspeth and I work in library headquarters in Newport on the Isle of Wight. Now, one thing we librarians really like to do is talk about books, but we also love it when other people talk about books as well. So today I'm going to talk just for a minute or two about one of my favourite books in the hope that it will inspire you to have conversations of your own. Now, it doesn't matter if you've got completely different tastes from me. It doesn't matter if you've got no interest at all in a specific book that I'm talking about. All that matters is that you're reading what you want to read, that you're having your own opinions about it, and that you're talking about it. Now, what I'm going to talk about today is actually one of my childhood favourites. I read this series when I was 8 and I fell madly in love with it. So you might want to pause the video for a moment and think, if you had to talk for a few minutes about a book that you really liked when you were around about 8 or 9, or if you are still around about 8 or 9, about a book you really like now, what would you choose? Well, the book I've chosen, there's really no contest here, was Swallows and Amazons by Arthur Ransom. And this is my own much-loved, much-read childhood copy. When I first read it, I borrowed it from the library, but I liked it so much that I got my own copy. And for the next year or two, I think all my birthday presents and Christmas presents involved getting one or more of the Swallows and Amazons books that I'd only had from the library before. And I wrote in them where I got them from. So this one I know came as a souvenir from a holiday in Wales in August of the year I was 8. So even if you haven't read the series, you might be broadly familiar with the premise of it. It tells the story of a group of children, the Walker family, who are staying in the Lake District, and they get permission to take a boat called the Swallow out onto a little island in the lake and camp there for days and for weeks without any real adult supervision apart from very occasional visits from their mum. And when they're there, after a few days, they see another boat sail past, the Amazon, that's got a skull and crossbones hoisted on its mast. And this belongs to two local children, Nancy and Peggy, who are the Amazon pirates. And the two groups of children team up, and for the rest of the series, they have a lot of adventures. Some other children get involved as well, and most of them involving boats. Although, actually, my favourite is my favourite Pigeon Post. It has very few boats in it. In this one, they're going up the top of the hills and they're trying to find gold, and they're communicating with pigeons by sending them back to Mama home. But most of the books have boats in them. So I've often wondered, why did the series really inspire me? Because I didn't really have much interest in boats. I couldn't swim, really wasn't adventurous, probably wouldn't have liked at all to have camped out in an island overnight without any grown-ups around. And nearly all my other favourite books when I was young, when I was that age, and now, involve magic and swords, and history and fantasy. So why does this particular series that doesn't have any magic, any swords, anyone fighting battles, why did it really appeal to me? And I think it comes down to imagination. Is that the children in the story are forever using their imagination. They're doing things that are fairly adventurous, sailing their own boat around on a lake, climbing mountains, but they are crafting it into this huge story in their imagination. So when the lake freezes over and they go skating on it, which is quite exciting in itself, they've turned it into a great big expedition to find the North Pole. And I think that really spoke to me because I really like using my own imagination. So while these children were pretending to be pirates and explorers, I was pretending to be a swallow or an Amazon, usually an Amazon. So I would dress up, I'd camp out in the back garden, not overnight though, because that was scary. And I made a bow and arrow out of twigs, and it didn't work, but I still made it. I drew pictures, I wrote songs, I wrote poems. I even persuaded my very obliging parents to go on holiday to the Lake District, where I could imagine for the entire holiday that I was one of the Swallows and Amazons, and we climbed Coniston Old Man, just like the children in the books do. And we got a boat and went out on Windermere, rode around some of the islands there, which was a bit stressful because none of us could swim, and it did end in tears, but not in capsizing or drowning, fortunately. And I just was forever doing things because the children in the books did it. So that's another thing to talk about is, have you ever done anything because somebody in a book did it? Have you been inspired to take up a hobby or to go somewhere purely because someone in a book did it and you want to be a bit more like them. The other thing that always strikes me when I think about swallows and Amazons, though, is how, for me, it was always about the Amazons. I remember a teacher saying when I was about 9, she was saying, really amazed that your favourite character is Nancy Blackett, the Amazon, because you're not a Nancy, which is quite true. I really wasn't a Nancy. Nancy was bold and assertive, quite bossy, really, and I was bookish and imaginative and quiet, and was always happier reading or writing. In character, I was Dorothea, the writer, or Titty, the very imaginative one. I was absolutely not Nancy. But reading, I was all about Nancy. And I think that's been a pattern that's been true in a lot of my books. A lot of my favourite characters are absolutely not like me. And I know a lot of people say when they read, they want a main character who is very like them. They want someone they can relate to. They can see the world through the eyes of this character who's like them. But I've always been the opposite. I think I quite like those characters, but the characters I love, the characters I like reading about, are characters who are not like me. They might sometimes be characters I kind of deep down wish I was like, but quite often they're characters I'd really very happily not be like. But I just like reading them. So that's another thing you can talk about. Is it doesn't have to be about swallows and Amazons at all. It doesn't have to be about a childhood favourite book. Just in your reading, what sort of characters do you like to read about? People who are like you or people who are not like you? So I hope this sparked some conversations, and feel free to leave some comments in the Facebook post about your thoughts and your favourite childhood readings. So goodbye.